So that was kind of an interesting moment because at that time I just didn't see myself as a producer. And then spending more time with those beautiful souls and like with encouragement, they were like, you can do this, you can learn this too. And I was like, I can, like, are you sure?
Welcome to A Musical Mind. I'm your host, Richard Raymond II. I'm a recording engineer, music producer, and multi-instrumentalist located in Colorado Springs, Colorado. In this podcast, we'll talk to a variety of musicians about the music-making process, as well as the life and mindset that have helped them find success as a musical mind. Thank you for being here. Here we go. Hello, everybody. It's a new day, and we got a new episode. Today's guest is Ginamaya, originally from Lamont, Illinois, my hometown. Woo, woo, rah, rah, yeah. Now she's based in Chicago, and she's a new mom of two, just had a beautiful baby girl named Lucille Virginia, and she also just popped out a new EP called Miss Moon. So we're going to talk a bit about the creation of that EP and the story behind it. So without further ado, let's get right into this one. This is my episode with Ginamaya. Enjoy. All right. Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of A Musical Mind. I'm here with today's musical mind, the Chicago-based musician, mother of one, soon to be two, and self-described as pleasantly confused, Gina Maya. Gina, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Long time listener, first time caller.
Long time. It's only been about 3 months that things have been on the air.
3 months is a long time in pregnant land.
That's very true. Not speaking firsthand, speaking secondhand, but pregnancy can be like an eternity from what I've heard. So how about we start there? How has this pregnancy compared to the first one? I know my wife, her pregnancy was like horrid, and I've heard all kinds of different stories
I
from
know.
everyone.
I almost don't want to open my mouth right now because your wife's gonna hate me. I have really easy pregnancies. I'm really lucky. Yeah, I feel about the same. Maybe a little more tired, but a tiny bit more sickness in the first trimester. So maybe I'm thinking it's a different sex, but you never know what you're gonna get. So
yeah. So you know gender reveals for you?
Nah, not my thing. But that big moment is just so spectacular. I loved that moment, finding out who that little person was. So we decided to save it up again. Yeah, did you guys?
Remind me, what's your first?
Oh yeah, my first daughter Ayla. Who
Ayla, that's nice.
Thanks. It means ray of light around the moon.
Oh.
And she was coincidentally born on the full moon. So that was
not a coincidence.
So yeah, perhaps. Well, we named her, and then we found out after and realized the moon. It was just a really cool.
That's super cool.
Kind of happenings. Yeah.
We didn't know either. We thought we knew. We were fully convinced it was a boy.
That it was really.
We had our name picked out and kept seeing it everywhere, so it was like, well, obviously, this is going to be. It was going to be Walter. That was our name, like Wally.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, and we're like, all right.
Don't tell me that. I'll steal it from you. That's so cute.
I think we've let it go. Though. We have a new.
That happens too.
Yeah, we have a new boy name picked out that we're pretty set on, but yeah. So I actually, well, I attempted to catch Dorothy, and didn't really work out. Reason being, may as well get into this. So Sammy, we had a home birth, and she was on the toilet, which was a great place to be.
Oh yeah.
But I knew baby was coming, and I'm just like physically, like, I don't know how I'm supposed to catch the baby because I have to stick my hand in the toilet bowl and then
Yeah.
like under, and it doesn't work like that. So I kind of like in between contractions, like turn to the midwife. I'm kind of like, how the fuck is this supposed to happen? She's
Yeah.
like, oh, she'll stand up, honey. Don't worry about it. I'm like, does she fucking know that? Because she's in agony here.
Yeah, right.
You know,
She's
next
gone. Yeah.
push, right out of my hand, and I'm just kind of like, are you fucking kidding? Like, I told everyone this was gonna happen. I pride myself on having pretty good hands, you know.
They're
So
sturdy.
ask anyone I played sports with, and they'll vouch for me. So it's just
Yeah.
yeah. But then they're like, I was the one who determined the sex, and it was weird because I was really let down, which was super weird. And then you go
Mm.
through this like self shaming of like, this is your firstborn fucking child. Like, how dare you be upset right now? You know, took about
It's hard
5
to change your
minutes.
perspective though if
Yeah.
you were so convinced. Yeah,
Right.
I
I
get
mean,
it.
and now I would, of course, you wouldn't want it any other way,
Totally.
but that was my experience. So it was kind of weird, kind of looking. I'm like, Yeah, it's a girl." I'm like, why am I the one who's responsible for this?" Um,
My husband was
but yeah,
laughing because they were asking him, "Go ahead, tell everybody what it is." And he was like, "I don't know, it looks newborn's genitalia is like very swollen."
it
And he was
is.
like, "I feel like I don't." He's like looking around like, "Should I be this confused?" They're like, "It's a girl."
Yep. I mean, I kind of had to, like I had to pause for a
Double
second
take.
too. Yeah,
Yeah. But yeah,
it's weird.
so we're going for that moment again. We'll see who it is in there.
So you sounds like you think it might be a boy.
I do, and I thought Ayla was a girl like the whole time.
Mm,
So yeah, that intuitive piece is fun to play around with, see if you're right some of
yeah.
that.
Well, that's super exciting. Um, so how did you kinda get your start as a musician?
Mm,
I know it's a loaded question,
yeah,
but
I always whenever mm, I think of that question, I literally go back to 5-year-old me. I wanted to join the choir so desperately, but
mm.
I couldn't read yet. I threw,
Oh,
I was
that's
like
funny.
4.5, somewhere in there. And they said you have to be able to read to join the choir. And I was just devastated. Like, oh, if I could just read, I could go sing with the group. It was like, but very performative as a child. We have
Mm.
videos of me in like the library, Vermont Public Library, lip sync
Nice.
contests, like giving it my heart and soul up there. It is they're pretty cute, but so yeah, aunts and uncles always remind me of when I was young, writing songs for parties and performing for everybody. And so that I kind of always see myself more just as a performer in general, like a creative spirit that wants to like everybody wants to do this, right? This is so fun to like get up in front of everybody. And then
Yeah.
you get older and you realize, oh no, like a lot of people that's their worst fear. They don't want to do that at
Yeah,
all.
totally.
Um, and then by the time I got to college, I was kind of, I'm a mechanic's daughter, was just trying to be practical. It was the recession. I was like, how can I get a job?
Mhm,
Ended up studying. I was, undecided for a little bit. And then I was in journalism. And then all the papers were closing. And I ended up
mm,
in speech therapy because I heard that was like going to be a stable job for the next like 2 decades. I was like, okay,
mhm,
I think I'll find something in there that I like. And I did. I like voice,
mhm.
voice studies, and I also actually work with elderly people who have trouble swallowing. So that's like my day job,
Interesting.
which is an interesting. Yeah, it's kind of like a little corner that a lot of people don't know a lot about. Swallowing is something we take for granted, of course.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, this kind of very roundabout path, and then I'm done with grad school, and that creative bug just was not going anywhere. I was desperately seeking. I did this like really nerdy play in the suburbs. Like I was just like, somebody get me, like I just got to get out and collaborate with other people and celebrate life because that's really I think what like the stage is about, and
Mhm.
having the performers and the attendees come alive if done well. So at that moment, that was kind of the time when I'm like, okay, well, this stuff or, whatever this is, isn't cutting it. And I haven't written my own stuff in a while, but maybe I could open GarageBand. Maybe I could sing a little tune. Maybe I could find a producer that would want me to sing on top of their song. So that's kind of how it started. And then that was
What what year are we at? How many years ago?
this is like 5, 6 years ago,
Okay.
maybe. Um, but yeah, I mean, all these years I've had notebooks of lyrics or whatever. So it's always like this kind of underlying uh, vibration, I suppose, that I
Mhm.
can't I can't seem to shake. So at that point, I was kind of looking online for people, and then working online can be difficult because it's just slow as opposed
Mhm.
to being with someone in the room. It's a yes no. It's a turn that up 3 dB, right? Like just
Yeah.
those little things that you don't want to do that over email over weeks and months. So got a little bit frustrated with that quickly and ended up meeting like a few really still super close friends in Chicago online though. Like we were just looking for producers and they were looking for singers. Like so that was kind of an interesting moment because at that time I just didn't see myself as a producer, and then spending more time with those beautiful souls and like with encouragement they were like, you can do this, you can learn this too. And I was like, I can, like,
Mhm.
are you sure? um and then kind of dipping my toes, and like many people, COVID was a sort of time for extra time.
Yeah.
And I took an Ableton course, and since then I've been able to piece together my own music, and it was a gift in a lot of ways because that dependency on other people has kind of slowly gone away, even though again, collaboration is just the best, like so fun, but it's also nice to be able to take control when you want, or just start from scratch and
Mhm.
go from there. Mm.
Cool. So do you play instruments as well?
So I mostly use my voice. I do like a lot of voice to MIDI conversion, lots of voice memo ideas, and
Oh, I've never
um,
done voice to MIDI.
yeah, I wish it was better. I'm gonna be real. It's I feel like it's kind of a newer technology that they're kind of trying to get the kinks out. So usually you have to go in and edit quite a bit,
Sure.
but at least you've got to start. Occasionally
Yeah.
I'll like bang around on some keys or something, but it's kind of, even when I was young, if I started to make a song, maybe I'd start with like a vocal a cappella sort of
Yeah. S
background and then sing on top of that or something.
so is it, like, velocity sensitive and note length sensitive? Like, when you
Yes.
that's cool. So you
But
can
but I don't know about velocity. No, the length for sure, and the pitch, of course. But even the
mhm,
pitch is sometimes
off.
off. And that's the biggest frustration because that's obviously what you hear and you want
Yeah.
there. So I think similar to, if you're playing guitar or something else, like, it's not bad, but it's like one over whatever, and
Yeah.
you're kind of messing with it to get it how you want it, how you hear it in your head.
Not velocity sensitive, though. Okay. That's so fascinating. I've had another guest on who's in a similar boat, like, had a, you know, somewhat of a musical upbringing. He played, in band, like, some sort of woodwind or brass or something, but doesn't play the instruments that you hear in his tracks, but he does it all himself. Like, that's so cool. I kinda like I learned how to play while producing. They were, like,
Really?
linked. Yeah, I would just do take after take after take after take after
Oh
take
my
after take,
gosh, that's
and then, like,
amazing.
you know, get a loop that I needed. Like, I wouldn't have been able to play the whole thing through,
Right,
or
right, right.
on the first couple songs.
Wow.
Um,
I have a
yeah,
little bit of like what's it called? Sort of a self-limiting belief that from what I know about music, that music is similar to language. I learned this from my choir teacher friend, my friend who's a choir teacher. And she said it's similar to language in that, really you're best off learning, let's say 5 to 12 or something. And then that the richness is you're just never going to replicate it quite the same. So I have this sort of like imposter syndrome, avoidance of learning more instruments. But you do hear of adults all the time, like, no, I learned
Yeah.
some, I learned a few things. It's all right. You're like, yeah,
Oh,
okay.
I really don't like that because I play a
I know. So,
bunch of different instruments, and I didn't really I kind of noodled with drums when I was, like, 13, but I didn't start playing a melodic instrument until I was 16, um, and that was when I started kind of everything at once, um, so guitar and keys and bass and singing, like, all that kinda happened at, like, 16, from, like, 16 to 25. It was if I wasn't with friends or I wasn't working, which I didn't work a whole lot, that's, like, what I was doing.
but that's some
So,
time you put in. That's a part of it too, right? It's just
yeah, I finally feel caught up to those I've felt caught up for a while to those people who did kinda start in that golden age, so to speak, but come on,
mm.
that just you know, I mean,
Give me more.
it
That's what I need. That's what I need.
maybe it takes more work, but I just don't like limiting beliefs like that,
Yeah.
and I actually have, like, um, episode his will be out after this, but my buddy Drew, who's like a classical pianist at this point, who, teaches other people how to play piano, he started when he was 18.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
But
that's
he played
amazing.
it 8 hours a day, put a piano in his bedroom,
Mm,
but you can do
yeah.
it. I
But
don't
I
know.
think you're tapping into something though that a lot of that is probably just time spent.
It's
It's the
time.
Yeah, it's time.
What
Because
is
even
it
with
that
producing stuff, it's more, I mean, it's endless, right? It's absolutely eternal,
Mhm.
the the depths you can go to and discover. So but if you're thinking like that, that's what I realize is, okay, well then just be okay, or just just start. And songwriting too, for sure. When you start to write
Mhm.
songs, they're just bad, or they're just, they're okay. And then
Mhm.
that's okay. And it's still fun and interesting and exploratory, and you're gonna grow from it. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's never too late, and if you want to take lessons, let me know. I have a couple people I teach guitar to, though I enjoy teaching adults who already play, so, we can talk about theory because that's, like, what,
Mhm.
gets me fired up because I know what it's done for me, and I played for years before knowing anything because it was all well, you say self-taught, but in the age of, like, YouTube, are we really self-taught, you know? Um,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think it's totally different than, like, back in the day, like, you're literally by yourself and you're just listening to records, trying to figure it out without any guitar book or any teacher or anything. Like, I've watched so many YouTube videos with someone who's probably a career music teacher, so, self-directed maybe, not
Yeah,
self-taught.
yeah, right.
Anyway, I just encourage everyone. I know it's probably a bit challenging as a soon-to-be mother of 2 to find that time. That can
It
kind
might
of
the next few years might be fun too, just, like, with little kids, like, you can
Mhm.
start at that elementary level a little bit more. I played,
Yeah.
like, a little ukulele in the past, or guitar, keys, like, that's the thing I've done, like, little bits of each, and maybe it would be a good excuse to play alongside.
Yeah, that's super true.
Pausing the show here to talk about my first sample pack with 5-pin media titled Psychedelic Soul and Downtempo, available on loopmasters.com. This thing is massive. It is 5.8 gigabytes, and it took me forever working on this thing to give you all the sweet stuff that's packed in here. And as it currently stands, it has 16 5-star ratings on loopmasters.com, which is pretty good. Anyway, there's a lot packed in here, recorded with primarily analog instruments, including my Korg SV1, a Roland Strings, a Wurlitzer organ, my Micro Brute, my Glockenspiel, my Fender Rascal bass, a Washburn semi-hollow bass, Fender Strat, and an array of analog effects and pedals. There are 100 acoustic drum loops on here that I played and recorded myself at Wholesome Studio C7 in Chicago's North Side back when I still lived there. And there are 502 drum loops in total, meaning the rest of those are programmed. There's so many drums in here. We also have one shots. We've got musical loops on all those instruments that I named. To be specific, there's 766 loops, 179 one shots, 981 multi samples, 18 sampler patches, 240 MIDI files, and a Live 10 project featuring 25 sampler based instrument racks. Like I said, this thing is huge. There's so much to use in here if you're a producer, beat maker, or you just need stuff to play along with. I put a lot of work into this thing. I promise there's plenty here for you to use. Sounds great. It's vibey. It's all down tempo, cool shit. Give it a listen. Give it a buy. Head on over to Loop Masters. I got the link in the show notes. Go there, go get it, and start making some cool shit. My next question was, what's it like being a mother and an artist? How does that work for you? I would think, you know, in their fresh postpartum period that you would kind of just shelve everything, but maybe you don't. So what did that look like for your first child? And do you have an idea of what that might look like this next time around?
Yeah, I think I'm similar to any artist in that you always want to be doing more. It never feels like quite enough. But those little nuggets of time you can carve out are just it's sort of like exercise. Like sometimes you're like, oh, I should go. It's like I should, or I should go up to my studio. And then as soon as you're starting, you're like, why was I resisting that? Like, what was in my head? And what is there better to do with my time than to have a little creative time? So yeah, definitely freshly postpartum was just focused on, newborn stage, which was wild and fun. And then when my daughter was about a year old, I tend to write the most in the winter. Illinois winter is just dark and
The
cold
common
and
thread.
very common thread. And it's first few years I really resisted it. In the summer would kind of berate myself, and then after time I'm like, I'm really seeing this pattern, so I'm just gonna trust it. And but at the same time, when you do carve out the time, things come out, right? So even if it's 30, 60 minutes, yeah, I'm seeing the head nod. Yeah, it's the it's the common thread of I want to get there and I don't do it enough. And yeah, but it's funny because a lot of people have been like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're releasing music, like you're a mom now, blah blah blah. I'm like, I feel like it's been pretty similar output in terms of it doesn't take that long to make a song. It takes a lot to finish and to release something. Like
Yeah.
the beginning is so easy and fun and
Hmm.
playful, and it's just pure flow.
Right.
So okay, I'll do that.
You're just translating it, not making it. So that's easy. The other stuff's
Right.
work. Yeah.
Right. So switching from that intuitive brain to okay, and again, to me it's more fun, playful, a lot of times silly, like whatever's coming out, or dark, whatever's coming out, you're like, okay, this is what's coming out. All right. And then you have to come back, shelve it, come back, use the other side of your brain.
Hmm.
And that can be fun, but it can be very frustrating. So it's yeah, those the two sides of the same coin that you have to continue to flip, and then you
Yeah.
try again.
When you were saying that the output hasn't changed too much, I think my first response to that was like, "Pff, can't say the same." But then I'm like kind of
Maybe
thinking
I'm
about,
being yeah, no, it probably.
but then I'm thinking about it and I'm like, no, I've had like probably 6 songs that are some of them are totally finished, and it's been so challenging for me to find the right time and space to get them out there. And you know what? I'm actually like planning on releasing them as singles, and maybe that takes more effort actually because you need artwork for
Mm,
each of them. You need to pick a
mm,
release date for each of them. You need to think about them all separately. Whereas when it's one album, it's kind of like, there it is. That's
mhm.
mostly what I've always done. But yeah, I'm also coming fresh out of like this buying a home and moving into a home period, which was like the most one of the most insane periods I've ever done because we have a 1 year old and I had to do
Wow,
pretty much everything. Um, so
so
that was like,
stressful.
oh God, even though like it's happening and it's temporary, it's hard to stay above it. And I did not. Um, so I think I have a skewed perception.
I see you in a new building. You're doing it.
Yeah,
It's happening.
it's gonna be, yeah, slowly but surely. We're gonna be in town for the holidays back in the Chicagoland area, and that's when the workers are gonna come back in and get these walls ready for paint. I'm in
Oh,
a
great.
basement right now, which will be the new studio for all you listeners out there. So if this is
Woohoo.
not the same airtight audio you're used to, that's why. Just be patient, please. Um, but yeah, I'm really excited. It's been a very odd experience, though. I've never felt like less of a musician, and I'm kind of okay with that. But then I'm terrified that I'm okay with it. Does that make sense?
I see you so clearly. And that's kind of what I'm trying to say about like doing, yeah, maybe I did way less and I'm just like, well, that's okay though. Like it's just oh, it's such a strange life. Because
My my life is no longer dependent on my music like it was.
mhm,
Um, and that's like I think why I'm okay with it. I'm at peace with that, but there's still like that old self who hasn't completely skipped town. It's kind of like, what are you
mhm,
doing? What the fuck are you doing? Why are
mhm.
you cool with that? Huh? Who are you now? Punk ass bitch,
Oh
like that
yeah.
that
Oh
type of thing.
yeah. Well, we all yeah. Oh my gosh, dude, I so see you because I just think if I don't have like those little pieces of, I guess you could call it ambition, because that I think
Yeah.
passion and ambition kind of go together, and uh, and that's tied up with ego, and sometimes I think that's yucky, but then it's also great when people are passionate about something and they share it with me. So then
Mhm.
why don't I want that part in myself to stay active? So it's like, yeah, I think we're all kind of in that. You don't want that to take over, right? You don't want to be neglecting your wife and your daughter, and at
Mhm.
the same time, you don't want it to disappear. Like that's
Right.
just not. That seems so flat. It seems incomplete. Like there's all these different parts of me that need to come out, and my time is limited, very literally, in
Mhm.
this life. And so it's just sometimes you look in the mirror and you're like, what am I doing? Like, so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm about to have 2 little kids. Like, I think it's going to be pretty wild for a couple years. I had a friend
Yeah.
of 2 years back who was like, she was 9 months pregnant. We're camping. Her like 2-year old's running around. She's like, I'll see you in 2 years. And I remember being like, what the heck? Like, why'd she say that? And then it was true. And, now her kids are 6 and 8 or something. It's just a little blip in the big scheme of
Yeah.
our friendship. But yeah, it's kind of if you can kind of, I think, surrender to those waves, similar to the summer winter scenario, and trust that you'll come
Exactly.
back and trust that you don't always have to be on. I'm definitely not into hustle culture, but
No.
there are times when those people are like, well, you're just making an excuse. And you're kind of like, yeah, sometimes I am. And sometimes
Mhm.
I'm just enjoying a bike ride. And sometimes I'm like, I learned to bake bread this year. Like,
Ha!
speaking of who the hell am I? Like, if you told me that 5 years ago, I'd be like, you're full of shit. Like, you did not.
I think it
But
was last night I was talking about learning how.
really,
Yeah.
I don't think
Uh,
you need another hobby, my guy.
no. No. It was funny
It's no
though,
joke.
because my wife was like, "My friends are gonna abandon me if I don't learn." I'm like, "Well, maybe I will." Like, she's like, "You wanna be a homekeeper?" I'm like, come on, let's be real. I already do a lot around here. Like, wouldn't
Mhm.
be that weird if I learned how to make bread.
Just add that
Um,
another piece, yep.
yeah. But I think you're right. And I think it does kind of come with age and experience. Like, I know that when the things around me put me in a situation, it's not like I forgot anything. Um, it's all gonna
Mhm.
be right there, and I'm pretty comfortable in saying that I'll probably have gotten better without even doing much just because I've seen that happen time and time again.
Mhm.
As long as you're, I don't know, it's almost like as long as you're continuing to live. I don't even
Exactly.
mean practice your instrument. I'm sure there's a cliff somewhere, like, if you were to just, like, lose the muscles that you need,
Sure.
you'd have to rebuild that back up, but if you don't literally lose the muscles, not even the muscle memory, because I feel like the muscle memory is gonna stay forever, but you could lose, like, the dexterity or whatever. Um,
A little bit. Yeah, but like you said, you can build that back. I think,
yeah.
I saw Beck this year, last minute,
Oh,
like, somebody threw me 2 free tickets. I was like, "What?" Yes, at Northerly, so it's just, outside by the lake, like, just dream night. Like, I was like, "Oh, this night happening. This is great." And he got up on stage and I was like, "Oh, Beck's like 50." Like, I had no idea, and that was one of those moments where, um, I think people are kinda I'm sure there are people in this world that are kinda like, "Okay, you're 30 something, you have 2 kids, like, why are you still doing this?" I'm like, "I can do whatever the fuck I want." Like, look at Beck, look at him up there, he's grooving, he's
yep.
goofing up there,
Yeah.
he just oscillates too, he's like, into the psychedelic depths and then, like, just total caricature of other people. Like, it was just such a cool show, um, and a good reminder that you can't hear somebody's age necessarily, and the young folk singers maybe have this sort of like 80-year-old grandpa vibe all along, and other people, Madonna, you could say, or so, somebody who's just really is just eternally youthful and just
Yeah, share or something
sexual or
like
what,
that.
whatever. They're just not limiting in
Yeah.
certain ways, but yeah, that it's just encouraging to be reminded of that because you can get caught up in like youth, like American youth culture sometimes, and it's
Yes.
all BS.
Yes. No, super agree with that. I love Beck. Beck's always been one of my biggest inspirations. Um, Funny enough, though, I was just talking about Beck on previous episode, and we
Mm,
were talking about how your voice, particularly as a male, evolves over time, and how you can hear the difference in his voice. I think you were using
mm,
like metaphorical voice, but the physical voice will drop the fuck down. Um, But yeah, I think about that too, and it's weird, like, I'll think about someone like, James Mercer from The Shins, who
mhm.
I'm relaying what my brother-in-law told me, but I'm sure it's pretty accurate. I think he was either in his, like, late 30s or early 40s, like, when The Shins, first got on the
Oh,
map,
incredible! Wow.
and so it's like I think about stuff like that and I'm like, there's no fucking rush. Like there's timing is you can control a lot, you can't control timing. And I talk about this with that's like a newer thing I'm coming to grips with. I have a friend who like he's been single for a very long time. He really, really wants a family and like he sees what my wife and I are doing and like he wants
Mhm,
that.
mhm,
Kind of like, dude, like you can't control the timing, like it's going to happen. You're going to be amazing dad. I'm going to be there alongside you. Right
mhm.
now is not the time. It's okay. Here's all
Dude,
these other
he's lucky he
things.
doesn't have this little, like, very real clock ticking. Like, he actually has a lot more time, really. Like,
Right.
yeah, he'll be alright.
And then there's this part of me, like the former self or whatever, that's like, what are you going to do? Just keep finding the next person to look up to. And then you eventually you're going to croak. And, what if
Yeah.
like what if you never get there? And then that's like the next thing to come to grips with, like, well, does it fucking matter? Does it
Mhm.
fucking matter? Because for the longest time, that was everything. And when I didn't feel like that was progressing, I was literally dying. So it's like,
Mm.
I don't know. I don't have all this figured out, but this is the shit that churns in the back of my mind while I'm in this like very clearly like it's not a pause, but it's just like the furthest away I've ever felt. And it's okay and it's terrifying. And I think
Yeah,
about it
yeah.
on a daily basis. So
I totally get it. I totally get it, yeah.
um
I wanted to ask you about your because you mentioned, like, the voice and how it changes as you age, which is true. Um, how do you see your voice as an instrument in the many pieces of the instruments that you're capable of
a
playing?
good question. I have sung less and less, and I can't give a short answer, so I'm gonna give the
That's
long
fine, I'm
one.
here.
Um, when I first started playing, I kind of as soon as I could sing and play, I did that, and I was, like, a big Radiohead fan at the time,
Mm,
and,
mm,
I could sing anything that Tom could sing. It was we must just have the same shit, uh,
mhm,
and I knew that he was always someone who was, like, on the list of top voices or whatever, so that, like, gave me a lot of confidence to, like
mm,
I just knew I was hitting it. It wasn't up for debate, and I did have, like, some people around me validate that too. So that was always kind of like a strength, and I almost always wrote songs that had lyrics, and then the last album I did is Lime Forest, which is called Big Hits, mostly vocals on all of that. A couple things were going on. One was that I was like, I'd been smoking spliffs on a regular basis for a long time, and it was really starting to impact my my range.
Oh,
And I
yeah, I
was like
love yeah.
25 and I knew that. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're not even, I think 27's the athletic prime as someone with a sports background. I always like, that's the same as the musical prime in my mind, which is probably not
Mm,
true, but whatever. I'm just like, you
27's
can't
maybe
be
maybe it is
like you
something
can't be
there.
regressing before you're even in the prime. Like, what are you doing? Um, and so that kind of changed how I was singing. And then on top of that, I felt like I was singing about the same shit. I feel like shit. I want to feel better. I know I can, but I feel like shit. That was like the narrative of everything. And I was like, I'm fucking
Mm.
done hearing that. Like, I'm I'm not gonna say anything because if
Uh-huh.
I that's all I have to say, and I'm fucking sick of hearing it, basically. Like, I'm sick of broadcasting that because that's a problem. Like, I'm creating this loop of shit here.
Mm,
On top of that, just my proficiency on guitar mostly, like, got to a level that, like, I now mostly play things that are hard to sing over. So I've kinda just, like, let it go a little bit. I still sing here and there. I sing to my daughter all the time. I was
mm,
singing this morning, playing something more simple and straight, but mostly I love the challenge of playing things that are like at the edge of my musical faculty, which then like almost automatically means I'm not going to be able to sing over it.
sure.
That's my answer.
Nice. Yeah, I was curious because I think, like, when you are able to kind of pursue other avenues, it's more liberating, like, you're not, um obviously, as a multi-instrumentalist, you have options to turn to. I've turned to I have, like, a little TC Helicon, like, voice live play. Have you ever seen one of those? Yeah. They're kinda goofy, but I love recording into it instead of using my condenser. I use my dynamic and, like, just get some goofy things going on that, and it can kinda turn into its own. instrumentation. And I I had this idea growing up that like the talented singers, you're dripping in like pop culture, right? Like Spice Girls and whatever when I'm little, and Mariah Carey or someone that actually I didn't really like, but everyone else seemed to. And so there must be something there that if you can hit every note perfectly, and um, obviously with time you realize maybe the expression isn't really there, the depth isn't there, but ultimately like kind of quieting that voice of it. Your voice doesn't have to be American Idol or
Mhm.
some BS. It just has to be real. It has to be, um, yeah, I'm noticing even my range. Like when I first started singing, like I wanted to be really, I grew up listening to like Susan Tedeschi, like powerful blues singers, or Aretha Franklin, or, just big booming strong voices. And culturally, and also just, I don't know, internally, I feel like everything's gotten kind of quieter and like less dramatic for me. And I'm hearing my music just kind of like,
Bedroom
to-
pop.
I guess, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
even just, I have a like a decent range, I suppose. Not, again, it's like a comparison game sometimes, but I'm an alto and I'm just singing lower, and I'm cool with singing lower. And
Mhm.
we're just like here, yeah, like bedroom pop, like I said, just
Yeah.
here up in my mic, just chilling.
Yeah. I've done a similar thing. I don't really push the envelope anymore, whereas earlier on, I would more often. Just yeah, I don't know. I also became a big fan of jazz, so and, like, I got into house music too. So
Mm,
there's just and ambient music, so all of the, like, newer genres that I became a fan of didn't have vocals present. So,
mm,
I think there'll be a day where I come back around, um, or if I were, like, in a group that needed someone to sing, I think I can do that,
mhm,
um,
mhm,
but it doesn't not calling me as much, but it's there when I need it. My voice is the muscles are weak. That would be one where I have let the muscles drop off.
mm.
Um, like I have a show when I go back home and we're not even gonna rehearse. I'll just burn out one night and that'll be it. Um,
Well, maybe
and
we could trade tips because I'm full of singing
yeah,
tips and
yeah.
voice
I mean, I've got
conservation.
like less than 20, less than 15 days or so to get this
Ah,
built back up. I'm also getting
yeah.
over I don't know what. I've been coughing on and off for weeks, so that has not
Yeah,
helped.
everybody's been catching that. Yeah,
Yeah.
fun.
Um, but yeah,
That's cool.
that's kind of how it goes. I mean, I will say that I think even if I'm not singing out loud, I still try to sing internally and let that be the thing that's driving like any improvisation that I'm doing,
Oh,
particularly
I
on
love
guitar.
that.
I
That's such
believe
a
that
nice idea.
the best like soloists, um, particularly with guitar, are people who they're clearly playing a melody they're hearing in their head opposed to just like relying on muscle memory and scales,
Mhm,
which I
mhm,
am guilty of at times too. But I'm drawn to like someone like David Gilmour is always a prime example for me, the Pink Floyd
mm,
guitarist, like
mhm,
very patient. Um,
mm,
it could be, it could all be someone singing and it would work. And that doesn't make as much sense in other genres, even jazz a lot of the time, to be honest. But jazz has all these implied melodies. So even if there's tons of notes going on, you can find the vocal melody that's not there.
isn't that always the case? That's what I love about collaboration, like, I love when I'm sitting next to my friend, like, "How does this phrase end?" And we both hear the same,
Yeah,
you hear the same thing, and maybe it's kind of bizarre even. You're like, "What about like that?" And you're like, "Yeah, that was what I was thinking." I was like, "Okay, that's just
that's when you know.
it's just eerie."
Yeah,
But
that's super
it's fun.
cool.
Those are good moments.
All right. Well, you have an EP coming out on January 12th.
2024. Sounds weird to say that year, but that is what we will
Yeah.
be living in. Living in.
Yeah.
What should we expect? Like how many tracks is it?
Yeah, it's a
What's the vibe?
short
What do
little
you
guy. It's a four song compilation. Um, Good amount of silliness, which I wasn't expecting. I thought, and plenty of sentimental too. It's definitely about becoming a mother. But I'm hoping people can groove to it no matter what. And it's one of those things. I'm like, if I'm being honest, that's what came out. I didn't really feel in charge in that department, but I still think it's quite groovy for anybody. And there's kind of elements of I always have little strange cerebral like cinematic arrangements, but then very pop feeling at the same time. So I can feel like maybe your old high school friends are kind of like, what's going on here, and then it's like too much for them, and then like more of an indie scene might be like too pop for me. So
Hmm.
I always feel myself straddling those areas a bit, but it's like I said, it's just what comes out. And I'm proud of these ones. Miss Moon, especially. Miss Moon's the first track. Um, yeah, I hope everybody can check it out. I'm working on this little canvas right now. Those little short clips that you
Yeah,
can play like on Spotify. Yeah, so like visual stuff, which is fun. And I filmed that like quite pregnant, so some of the
nice.
pictures are pretty fun. A lot of it you won't even tell. I don't show very much. I'm very tall. There's a lot of space. There's just some room
Interesting.
for a baby to grow. But yeah, it's just also just a good memory. I did a show about a month ago, my last show for a while, and
Yeah.
being 7 months pregnant, um, it was just it's just great to have baby up there with me and have that memory. We were up
That's so
there.
cool.
We
Yeah.
were saying we were grooving up there. It was a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Um, so I'll have that link in the show notes. Miss Moon, get it while it's hot. Been out for a couple weeks at this point, but it's still as fresh as ever.
Mhm.
Um,
And maybe as fresh as my newborn.
I've been listening to it and it's fucking lit.
Thank you.
Yeah, totally. Can't wait to hear what's next.
Yeah.
Speaking of what's next, it's about time for our final segment. All right. So
Yay.
to close out each of these episodes, I ask it it can be your own EP or we'll just throw that out there anyway. But I want an EP, a song, or an album that recently has had you fired up and inspired. And I will put it on
Mm.
a playlist which is called A Collective Musical Mind, and each guest contributes to it.
Oh,
So,
lovely. Yes, yes. I'm gonna go with my one of my biggest inspirations, Brittany Howard,
ooh,
originally in Alabama Shakes. She's got a new release coming out, and she just released one of the singles, Red Flags, and it's just so perfect. I'm absolutely obsessed with her. I met her after a show a few years back, and I have never fangirled. That is so not my thing, and I was embarrassing. Like I couldn't talk. I was like, "Oh, this is what people are experiencing when they're those blubbering idiots." That's me right now. But I have so much respect for her. I think she's a magical human being. And the new track is so like perfectly gritty and yet welcoming. I feel like she always straddles, and that's like it's just the best when people can have that dynamic
yes.
ability to make you feel two things at once. I'm like, how are you doing this to me? It's just so powerful. So that's my rec.
All right. Well, it's in the playlist and it's been great chatting. This is our first
Yeah,
time ever talking, and we could have went on for another hour, but the day is
definitely
calling and my daughter needs me.
same. No, yeah, it was really great to talk.
All right. Until next time.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, folks, if you haven't caught on, baby is now Earthside. Let's give a little round of applause, a welcome to the world for Lucille, Virginia. How sweet. Also, as promised, I have the Miss Moon EP in the show notes. Stream it, share it, throw it on a playlist. All that stuff helps win the algorithm, so to speak. And yeah, enjoy it. I think it's really cool. It doesn't quite sound like anything I've heard before, and toes that line of super weird and super pop, kind of like she was describing in the episode. And yeah, throw it on, go for a walk, do something active, get outside, and tell the people around you that you love them. Till next time, I'm Richard Raymond II. Hope you have a beautiful day.
Thanks for listening to A Musical Mind. I have been your host, Richard Raymond II. If you, your band, or your friend, or anyone you know is in need of mixing and mastering services, I offer that remotely. Shoot me an email. That's richardraymond2@gmail.com. No spaces, all spelled out. You can also give me a follow, Richard_Raymond_II on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. We'll get to making some cool shit. And please like this podcast, share it with a friend, give it a 5-star rating. It ain't too hard to do. I appreciate you for being here, and I'll see you next time.